What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Nvidia stock, ticker symbol NVDA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day. Wednesday, April 17th. Okay, guys, so Nvidia stock here today up $14.14 a share. That's plus 1.64% in regular trading hours. It is up in the after hours. Listen, as always, take after hours with a grain of salt. But if I'm a bull, I'd prefer that the stock is, of course, up after hours rather than flat or down. It is the real price, but it's very easy to move stocks in the after hours, even big blue chips. Volume's very low, so take that as you will. Let's pull out all the bias Nvidia was willing to give us here today, looking at a variety of different factors. Let's start peeling back layers of the onion and pulling out things that we don't get simply by looking at the price action. Let's take a look. And we will do so starting with the 5-minute chart, doing a quick little volume profile analysis to pull out whatever bias we can find lying underneath. Listen, guys, I'm covering Nvidia every single day. I'm setting a new goal here. The new goal is 7,000 subscribers. So if you like Nvidia, again, covering it every single day, I appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and I'll keep the Nvidia videos coming daily. Now, the moves that I want to take a look at here today on Nvidia. I want to take a look at that pop and drop, see if we can pull anything out of there. And then that's really it. I'm going to move on and look toward the end of the day, but I'm not going to circle anything else. Let's just take a look. Now you can see we got a higher volume open. That's very normal. Now, truthfully, guys, we usually expect this volume to fade a little bit quicker in the day. We held on a little bit. However, we still got that same kind of shape. Right? It faded more slowly than is typical, but we still faded at a sustained pace, and that is, I would argue, well within context, even though we saw a little bit more volume a little deeper into the day. So I think we can move on from that first move. There's not a lot of information we can pull out of that, unfortunately. For example, you bears would have liked to see some consecutive higher volume out of context red bars on the back end of that move, which would have been this fade. Right, this fade in that pop and fade, and it just, it's not there. Okay, so let's move on here. If we move on throughout the day, to me, we're getting a lot of just contextual volume today. We expect this big pop into the close. This is that rebalancing volume after the bell, right? Nothing to be alarmed with there. That's very normal. And then here we have a couple of pops on a little bit larger candle moves. It kind of offsets each other. So that's it on the 5-minute. Let's move on to the 30-minute and take a look at the self-fulfilling prophecy psychological levels that I'm going to be paying close attention to here tomorrow. So you guys remember yesterday's NVIDIA video, we gave up hard that 200 period here on the 30-minute. Well, guess what? We laid out the best case scenario for bulls on the 30-minute in particular here today would have been a reclaim of ideally both of these moving averages. Right, and we got that. We actually held both. We reclaimed both of them. We came in as they crossed over this morning. We tested. We actually rejected twice hard off the 200 period on the 30-minute. We then reclaimed it. The volume was not picture perfect. We did not see a huge volume break, very low volume retest, and then a big volume pull away. But we got above and held, okay? At the end of the day, where the stock lies is the most important. However, I do prefer to see that volume confirmation, especially considering that we closed just literally resting on top of the 200 period. We're pulling away a little bit in after hours. Again, take after hours with a grain of salt. Volume's very low. But heading into tomorrow, bulls, if we see a retest of the 200 period on the 30-minute, I don't care what volume we retest it on as long as we see a high volume bounce. Bears, what you guys really want to see is kind of a repeat of the 15th here, which would have been Monday. A cracked downside below both of these, ideally as early in the day as possible and on as much volume as possible. And then, of course, you want to hold that rather than just give it up immediately. Now, moving on to the 4-hour chart, take a look. You guys remember yesterday, again, we gave up both of those levels on the 4-hour. We were dipping beneath the 200 period, but it was the day one break. You guys remember I was saying how I don't like to trust day one breaks, especially when they're that close. I like to see confirmation, so I said bears, not really out of the woods yet. And that was kind of shown today. The bulls quickly retook the 200 period here on the 4-hour. That was actually really nice to see. It was a relatively clean hold. We broke it in pre-market, held it off the open, And then we were struggling with that 50. We have broken it now in the after hours, but for me, it's not really enough. So tomorrow, bulls, I want to see a hold, or more so a break and hold of the 50 period. And if we're able to hold that 50 period intraday, like after the opening bell rings into the day, we're holding above there, making tests of it, holding it, or just back testing it and then pulling away on higher volume, that could help set the bulls up for a swift test of 9. Whereas bears, you guys want to hold beneath that 50 period, and your goal really, that's like a bare minimum if you're a bear. Your goal is to crack downside beneath that 200 period here on the 4-hour chart. Now the daily, guys, this is by far the most important chart, has the most eyeballs, and for me, I think is the most contextual, even just day to day, because we're dealing with the more macro levels, and then if we zoom in, we can make it a lot more relevant day to day. Now, you guys remember yesterday, we were heading into the lower region of this channel. The channel is right now really from 850 to 900, and we were about to test 850. But we held that off here today, and we now find ourselves just about halfway in between that channel. So listen, this is on the daily. This is anybody's ball game right now. It's a toss-up right now. We're essentially right in the middle. Okay, we're leaning a bit bull biased, right, in the after hours, because this is the daily. It's only going to show the closing price, no after hours movement here. Bears, you guys want to crack down below 850 and hold. Okay, bulls, crack above 9 on as much volume as possible, a retest, and a hold. Okay, so that would look like this. Crack up above 9, retest on lower volume, right? And then boom, the volume pours back in as the stock pulls higher. Okay, a break and hold of 9 sets up Nvidia in the near future for potentially making a run back up toward all-time high, if not $1,000 a share. Whereas bears, breaking downside and holding below 850, you have something else to deal with immediately, which is that 50-day moving average, which currently sits at about 833. So you guys have a couple of things to work out before you can go any lower. Now, implied volatility, guys, in comparison to the last month or so, actually let's zoom out a little bit more and then come back in here so we can compare to the last couple of months. You know, it faded a little bit here today compared to yesterday, but it's still sitting very low. If you own contracts, that IV crush has likely been a problem in the last couple of weeks. Well, actually probably the last month or so. That IV crush has likely been an issue. But again, the lower IV is, for those of you looking to buy contracts, that puts you in potentially a better position to maybe experience some IV pump if we were to see implied volatility head up back toward equilibrium. Again, context of the time frame that you're comparing it to is very important, because you can zoom out and look compared to going back to about this time last year and see where it relies in relation to kind of that median. Or you can zoom way in, and that could be a different story depending on the time frame of your trade. All right. Expected move here on Nvidia. Again, next expiration we have here is Friday at the close. We have 3 trading days until then, of course. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And there's no earnings. Okay, so we can reasonably divide by 3. So we have plus or minus $29.97 per share is the expected move by Friday at the close. Okay, so if we divide that by 3, we get about plus or minus $10 of share movement tomorrow by tomorrow's close. But again, we have to add 50% back to that to make up for the fact that that assumes a streak for the next 3 days, green or red. And we get about plus or minus $15 a share as the volatility expectation, between today's closing price and tomorrow's closing price. That's about what the market expects. Now, what was the bias out of the options traders here today? Directional bias, right? We had 843,000 total contracts traded here today. 493,000 were calls, and about 350,000 were puts. So we are seeing a call side bias on the overall ratio. The 0 to 20 delta range, those are the short-term bets, the short-term speculators. About 170,000 calls, 122,000 puts. So we're seeing a call side bias not only on the overall ratio, but also out of those short-term speculators here today. You know, listen, I love Nvidia as a company, and there are certainly some setups intraday that I'll trade on Nvidia. You know, gold members and up, we'll see those scalp setup alerts. But the majority of my trades, especially lately, guys, have been on in-play stocks. You know, every single tier out of the memberships, gold through platinum, they all get access to the in-play alerts, okay? For example, we had a stock just today alerted as in play at $4.21 a share. That ended up running within, I think it was within an hour or so. That one went from 421 and the FOMO poured in, and that ended up hitting a high of above $8 a share within an hour. So a lot of trading opportunities on that. I certainly capitalized on that here today. So listen, you can get those alerts at that link in the pinned comment. If you're getting value out of these videos, guys, let me know in the comment section. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.